So today, after the days of unleavened bread are finished, I want to talk a little bit about I don't know, how do I put this? Paul said that we should examine ourselves before partaking of the Messiah's Supper. Okay? And see whether we are of the faith or not. Right? Today, I saw a picture that was being passed around on social media, a picture of Perla Schwarz. And you can Google it if you want to while we're talking about this. I will post a picture on this video so you can see it. Here is this old woman. Cannot do harm to anyone. Okay? Wearing her old ragged clothing. With the yellow star hanging from her clothing. Being loaded up on the train, headed to the gas chambers. She was singled out among others to be killed at the gas chamber. And there was this look in her eyes. And when I see her face, I see my sisters, my nieces, my mother, my grandmothers. That's what I see. She shares the same surname as mine, although it certainly was her married name, but nevertheless, she shares the same surname as I do. So, why were the poor, the defenseless, the harmless of Europe singled out for extermination? The Jews were defenseless. They couldn't harm anybody. Why were they singled out? Well, as I mentioned in my last video about leaven. Leaven puffs up, and Christianity a long time ago rejected the unleavened bread of life. The Jewish Messiah rejected him. And yet Christians accuse the Jews of rejecting the Jewish or the Messiah. But in fact, it is the Christians who rejected him. They reject him in name. They reject him in birthday. Raising up a graven image in honor of the Son. And have rejected the Jewish Messiah. How did this happen? Well, let's read Matthew 7 and start in verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing. Yes, the man at the Vatican comes to the people in sheep's clothing. But inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? What is that supposed to mean? Well, as I mentioned before in previous videos, thistles and thorns tear the flesh. Just like Yeshua's flesh was torn. Now, the Christians will say it was the Jews who did it. No, no, no. It was the Romans who did it. Those Pharisees, the ruling class of the Jews, begged the Romans to do it, and the Romans did it. It was the Romans who tore Yeshua's flesh, but it was for the people of Israel. Okay? So, the Gentiles, the Gentile church, after Paul warned them against this, after Paul warned them not to boast against the branches of Israel in Romans 11, they did it anyway. Boasting against the branches is the leaven of Christianity today. It is the leaven of the Roman Church. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. What have the Christian nations been doing these past nearly 2,000 years? Killing each other and killing the Jews. Killing the Jews foremost, killing each other secondary. That's not fruit of righteousness. That is a corrupt tree, or corrupt trees. The corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that does not bring forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. Okay. Catholic Church, you shall know them by their fruits. Hitler and Mussolini put the Catholic leader back in power. By their fruits you shall know them. You can go and do your due diligence, do your research. The Protestant Church. Protestant Church began with Martin Luther. By their fruits you shall know them. Martin Luther initially claimed to be a friend of the Jews and tried to bring the Jews into his religion, but when they refused, because, like the Catholic Church, the Protestants worship the sun god, and of course, the Jews would not be deceived by that. And so Martin Luther turned and wrote a book called To the Jews and Their Lives, and in it he wrote unspeakable things, things that should never be written, spewed forth venom like a serpent, and the Protestant Church became also that which brings forth evil fruit, murdering the Jews. And other Protestant organizations did the same thing. Verse 21, not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, or Master, Master, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say unto me in that day, in what day? The day of Jehovah's wrath, and the day of a messianic era begins. They will say to him, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name? They don't even know what his name is. They rejected his name. And in your name cast out devils, and in your name done many wonderful works, and I will profess them, I never knew you. Yeah, but they called out his name, did they not? No. They called out a false Messiah's name. I never knew you. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Depart from me, you who work iniquity. And so, again, I mention the picture of Perla Schwarz being taken to the gas chambers. Does good fruit do that? This is what Europe did. But it wasn't, as I mentioned before, it wasn't just in the 30s and the 40s. No. It was generation after generation after generation. It never stopped. Every generation of Christians boast against the natural branches, against the words of Paul. Paul warning the Romans not to do this, and they kept doing it over and over and over again. And I've talked about this many, many times. I've gone to Romans 11 many times, but today I'm going to put a face, an innocent face, a picture of an innocent face on the subject. And hopefully that will prick a few more hearts. So we'll go to Romans 11 again. Verse 1. I say then, has Jehovah cast away his people? Jehovah forbid. But the Christians, the Romans say, yes, he has. In their pulpits they say, yes, he has cast away. Paul said no. The Roman Christians say yes. Who's right? If a billion Romans say yes, Jehovah has cast away his people, and Paul by himself says no, who is right? Paul or the billion Romans? It would be Paul that's right, and the rest are incorrect. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. He has not cast away his people whom he foreknew. Come on, Christians. Gentile Christians, Paul is your only apostle. There is no other. Don't you know about what the scripture said about Eliyahu? How he made intercession to Jehovah against Israel, saying, they have killed your prophets and digged down your altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what was the answer that Jehovah said unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so then, at this present time there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace, then it is no more of works, otherwise grace is no more of grace. But if it be of works, then it is no more of grace, otherwise work is no more work. What then? The nation of Israel, as a nation, at the time of Paul, had not obtained which it seeks, but the chosen elect of Israel has, and the rest were blinded. Verse 8, according as is written, Jehovah has given them the spirit of slumber, sleep, slumber, not death. Read about the 5 wise and 5 foolish. Slumber, they all slumbered and slept, but they're all going to wake up. Eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day. And David said, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. And let their eyes be darkened that they may not see and bow down their back. That word always is not what modern English would describe it. So let us go to Strong's Concordance and render that one correctly. The word is, in Greek, is diapantos. It just means mutual. 1275 in Greek, or mutual or friction, or intensified. Okay. So, Romans 11, verse 11, Paul says, I say then, had they stumbled that they should fall? It should read, had they stumbled that they fall forever? No. Jehovah forbid. But rather, because of their temporary fall, salvation is come to the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy. Now, if the temporary fall of Israel be the riches of the world or the Gentiles, and the diminishing of them Israel, the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness or repatriation, filling back up the land of Israel with Israelites. That's what the fullness is. The bringing of them back, literally, to the fold once again, all of them, everyone who has a drop of blood of Israel in them. Verse 13, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle to the Gentiles. So if you Gentiles, if you don't listen to Paul, you're out. You're out. You're kicked out. You're rejected. If you don't listen to Paul, you are rejected. And if you don't listen to the words of Paul in Romans 11, you are rejected, you Gentiles. So listen very carefully. I magnify my office, if by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are of my flesh, and I might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be, if the temporary casting away of them be, the reconciling of the world, what then shall be the receiving of them back be, except life from the dead? Now, what? I don't know any of you Christian Gentiles who believe this. The raising of Israel back from the dead? That's right. That's what Paul said. Now, if you as a Gentile disagree with Paul on this, you are rejected. It's plain and simple. Because he is the only apostle to the Gentiles. Period. And if you say that Israel is not going to be raised from the dead, then you're rejected. Because you've rejected the words of the only apostle to the Gentiles. So I'll say it again. For if the casting away of them Israel be the reconciling of the world, the Gentile world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? He's making no quarter here. The bringing them back is bringing them back from the dead. Why? Why Why is this happening? Verse 16, because if the first fruit, Yeshua Messiah, is holy, then the lump, Israel, is also holy. And if the root, which is Yeshua the Messiah, is holy, then so are those 12 branches, the 12 tribes of Israel, are holy. Once again, Gentile church, if you don't believe this, you are rejected. If you don't agree with the words of Paul in Romans 11 verse 16, you are rejected. It's just that simple. I'm not cursing anyone. It is you, the Gentile, who rejects the truth concerning Israel and Israel's Messiah. That rejection casts you out. You become rejected. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them partook of the fruit and the fatness of the olive tree, do not boast against the branches. So what have the Christian churches done? What has the Roman church done? For generation after generation, for nearly 2 millennia, they have boasted against the branches. And not only have they boasted against the branches, they have chased after the branches with the sword and with fire to try to exterminate them forever. Boast not against the branches, but if you boast, you don't bear the root, but the root bears you. So if you boast against the branches, you are also boasting against the root, the Jewish Messiah. Yeshua, the Jewish Messiah. You are boasting against him. You will say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by faith. Be not high-minded. That was one of the consistent sins of the Christian church, the Roman church, is high-mindedness. So high-minded, they changed the name of the Messiah so it wouldn't be a Jew into the son of Zeus. And they rejected the unleavened bread of life and chose the leavening of high-mindedness. But fear, for if Jehovah spared not the natural branches, when did he spare them not? When Jerusalem was sacked in 70 AD, years after Paul talked about this. They were not spared. Neither will he spare you, the Roman Gentile church. Behold, therefore, the goodness and the severity of Jehovah, on which them fell severity, but towards you goodness, if you continue in his goodness. The Gentile church has not continued in his goodness. By their fruits you shall know them. Take a look at that picture again that I'm going to post on this video. And you tell me if the Christian church, the Roman church of Europe, sent Perla Schwarz to the gas chamber. You tell me if there's any good in that. Otherwise, you shall also be cut off. The face of Perla Schwarz testifies against the Roman Church. And that's the reason why Rome, Europe, and the world as we know it is going to be cut off. Because of faces like Perla Schwarz. Because of what they have done to the Jews. And they also, Israel, if they abide not, still in unbelief, shall be grafted back in, for Jehovah is able to graft them in again. And when you read Ezekiel 39, you will see they will believe. And they will be grafted back in. Read all of Ezekiel 39 and down toward the bottom, you will see. Plain as day. Read Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. Read Hebrews 8, verses 8 through 12. Paul's words, once again, quoting word for word Jeremiah the prophet in Jeremiah 31 through 34. They will be grafted back in again. Perla Schwarz will be raised from the dead. And her murderers are going to be forced to look at her and be condemned. For if you were cut out of an olive tree which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature and into a good olive tree, how much more, how much greater shall these Israel be, which are of the natural branches, when they are grafted back, when they are brought back to their own land, when their Messiah becomes the king on the throne of David. Verse 25, and I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness only in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And of course, when the time of the Gentiles has ended, and when it's time for Israel to be brought back in, verse 26, and so all Israel shall be saved. And I have had so many arguments with Christians about this, telling me that I twisted the words of Paul. No, I did not. The rejection of this is a rejection of the words of Paul, and rejection of the truth, and the rejection of the prophets, and will bring the Roman Church's rejection. All Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob, for this is my new covenant. Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. Hebrews 8, verses 8 through 12. This is my new covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. As concerning the gospel, they are, and it should read, temporary enemies for your sakes. But concerning the election, Israel my elect, they are the beloved for the patriarch's sake, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For the gifts and calling of Jehovah cannot be changed, ever. For you in times past have not believed Jehovah, yet now you have obtained mercy because of their unbelief. Even so have these Israel, who at this current time do not believe, because Jehovah had mercy on you, he will have mercy on Israel. Verse 32, for Jehovah has concluded all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all. All right, might have mercy upon all. Let us get to the crux of the matter. Let us get to the bottom of the situation here. Let us get to the core of the truth. Mercy? Might have mercy. All right. You see, Perla Schwarz was shown no mercy. James 2 verse 13. This is a warning to everyone, including everyone. For he will judge without mercy. He's going to show no mercy on anyone who showed no mercy. Roman Church, you showed no mercy. You showed no mercy to Israel for nearly 2 millennia. And because of this, you will be shown no mercy. Not my words. No. The Apostle James was filled with the Holy Spirit. He was the one who said that. I can't change what he said. I can only repeat it. It's coming, folks. Zero mercy on the people who did this to Perla Schwarz. And millions, perhaps billions of others they have done it to. It's coming. Judgment without mercy.